Okay. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the live call for today. This one's going to be a live recorded call. We're going to be talking about a lot of great stuff. I'm looking at some of the questions that some of you guys sent in for this week, and fantastic questions. I'm really excited to get to some of these. So yeah, really great stuff. Hopefully you guys have had some solid wins today. I'm just going to give everybody a couple more minutes to join the call. Um, Anybody want to share some wins that they got for today? Go ahead and actually, no, let me go ahead and open up the form that we have. You could also put it here in the Q&A in the chat. You can also send that as a Q&A. So go ahead and put that in. And I'm going to go over to our form submissions and see what some of our wins were. And I know some of you guys are okay with your names being said with the call, but just to keep everything congruent and the same and anonymous, I'm just going to just read everybody's wins, but I'm not going to necessarily say your name. Okay. So a couple ones. So wife and I had a good week. No arguments. Hell yeah. That's a good win right there. Anytime you don't have any kind of arguments. I always tell people that pornography is kind of like a gateway into anger problems. So when I work with clients like you guys, a lot of you guys will tell me, or at least your wives will tell me, that he's always like getting upset. He's always angry. He's always, any little thing will tick him off or frustrate him. And, I'm really proud of you guys that can sit there with your wife and just nod your head and be like, yeah, that's how I am too. So, but the thing is about that is that pornography, as we all know, really promotes instant gratification. So when the thing that you want done or the thing that you're trying to achieve is not done in a quick way, it frustrates us. Like, for example, if we are trying to switch lanes on the highway or on the freeway, and we notice that the person that we are trying to move in our lane to, like if someone's going to let us in, or maybe they're trying to speed up so that we can merge over, if they're taking a long time, if they're taking just a couple seconds and you're just used to being able to merge right over, and you get like, wow, hurry up, like get over already. Come on, you moron. Um, it's like little things like that just kinda, like, upset us, and it's because, like I've said many times before, the pornography is teaching us to, you know, have any thumbnail, any video, any kink, anything that we wanna watch is accessible to us, and we're not being told no. We can get it within a fraction of a second when we click on it, and so this translates into, like, your everyday life. So, really great that you're saying here that you haven't had any arguments, because that's a really great win, but it goes deeper than that, you know? It goes a lot deeper. It goes back into it goes into the fact that you are not allowing it to make you upset. You are allowing things to delay themselves. You are allowing things to not affect you and bother you as much. So, fantastic, fantastic job there. Let's see if we got any other ones here. I got a good bit. I want to choose some of the more unique ones that we've had. Uh, Ran my first 4 miles this week. Hey, there we go. Ran your first 4 miles. I I barely can run 4 miles myself, so that's really awesome. I could run 4 miles, but I probably would need to jog it the entire way. I could maybe do like a mile and a half of like full sprint before I got to like slow it down a little bit. So ran your first 4 miles, that's really awesome. Fantastic. I mean, I'm sure if you were only used to doing a mile, 2 miles, or something like that, I'm sure it took a lot for you to push yourself to be able to get to that point. I'm sure there were many points where you just wanted to stop and relax and get that enjoyment of just being able to stop and take a breather. But it sounds like what you did here is you delayed the gratification of stopping, and you pushed yourself to hit that 4th mile. And I bet you anything, when you were at 3.5 miles, you're like, "Oh, man, I just gotta get to 4, and, just I can't stop. I gotta keep going." So really, really great win. I wanted ice cream last night, and I put it back in the fridge. There you go. Fantastic. What have I always said about sugar? Sugar is kind of that gateway that helps you that prompts you to relapse and fall back into watching it. So, really great that it sounds like you might have taken the ice cream out of the because you said you put it back in. So it sounds like you took the ice cream out for a moment, thought about it, maybe it sat on the counter for a little bit, and you decided to put it back, and that's really fantastic because, you had to make a decision in that moment. I don't know what the situation was, but it sounds like you had to make a choice in that moment. Were you going to be the one to engage in it? You were gonna give into that temptation of having the ice cream, or were you going to delay that gratification and put it back? Now, as I said before, you guys most of you guys have been through the course. Most of you guys that are in the live calls, you guys already have access to the course and you've gone through it, so you guys already know how I feel about sugar and what I know sugar does to your brain and how it prompts you to relapse and fall back into porn. Um, but it ice cream is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that when you have certain types of ice cream that are low quality ice cream, non-organic, and very, very high in sugar. So it's a very limited number of ice creams or just sweets in general that are out there that if you're going to have some sweets, you should probably have that kind. Right, so you wanna number 1, you wanna shoot for organic. That's numero uno. Here, let me, adjust this a little bit. I got the light over here, but I feel like it's affecting the quality of the lighting here. Um, can you guys hear me? You guys hear, 'cause I noticed I had the mic over here a little too far away. Okay. Um, so yeah, going back to ice cream and sweets. So, of course, ice cream is one of those things where it could be the worst thing, like, if you're buying that very low quality ice cream, like, it's not gonna be good quality stuff that you're putting into your body, it's gonna prompt your brain to wanna fall back into watching it, or here's my suggestion, so if you want to have some ice cream, this is for you that submitted that question. I think that it's really great that you picked up the ice cream, maybe it sat on the counter, you decided not to have it, and you put it back in the fridge. Fantastic. Now, if you want to actually, because I'm sure at some point you will want that ice cream, you will want to eat it. I'm thinking about you engaging and having it, okay? So I'm proud of you that you got it and you put it away. But what I am thinking about is what about the time that's coming up in the future where you may actually want it? So, what I would like for you to do, to whoever submitted that win, what I would like for you to do is I would like for you to take that ice cream, throw it out, and then I want you to go to the store, and there are 3 things that I want you to look out for when you make your next ice cream purchase. Because if you do give in and do have that ice cream in the future, it's not going to be as bad. It's not going to affect your brain as much to make you want to relapse and fall back into watching porn. So, here are my 3 things that I would like for you to do when it comes to your grocery shopping, specifically for ice cream. Number 1, I want you to find an ice cream that's organic. Okay, it has to be organic. Number 2, it cannot have seed oils. So a lot of these ice creams incorporate things like canola oil, um, let's see, what are some other best sunflower oil, um, and so I want you to only have ice creams that only use avocado oil, coconut oil, beef tallow, what's another one that could be if you guys, like, are at the grocery store and you see, like, there's a certain type of oil that I did not mention right now, message me and I'll let you know if it's okay. All right, but generally coconut oil is good to have. Um, and then, like I said, avocado oil, beef tallow is really great. You should kind of use that as like a rule of thumb for everything that you eat. Seed oils are not good for you whatsoever. And then the third thing is going to be, I want you to avoid artificial dyes. So when you're looking at that ingredient label, I want you to look out for things that say red 40, yellow 5, blue 3. I don't want you to have anything that has artificial dyes in it. Okay? That is not good for you at all. If you can live by those three things, you will increase your chances exponentially of never relapsing. Okay, so that's kind of the thing. It's like when guys try to like mentally get themselves in the space of like, okay, like I'm gonna do this, like we're not gonna watch corn anymore, like it's all over, like I got this locked up in my head, and you go about your day and you try to avoid all of the things that would normally like get you feeling like, oh, I gotta watch this. For example, if you let's go back to the guy who said, I haven't had an argument with my wife. Well, guy who hasn't had an argument with his wife, guess what? You can avoid having the argument with your wife. And, maybe that feeling of like, oh my God, like I'm so stressed out from this argument. I need to numb out and watch this. You can do that. You could go to the gym. You can go for a walk. You could, hit one of your goals that you've been trying for a long time. All of that could happen to you in a week. But guess what? If you have the wrong kind of foods in your body, in your system, it can still prompt you to relapse. And the bad thing about that is when you do consume that, and you do relapse, you look at it as like, okay, well, I hit my goals, I didn't have any arguments, I went to the gym, I went for a walk. So you're thinking like all the stuff that you did throughout the week. But what you're forgetting is the stuff that you put into your body. So I need you guys going into this week, I need you to start reading your food labels. I need you guys to start investing in organic. I need you guys to start looking at artificial flavors, artificial dyes, anything that says natural flavors in its ingredient label is not going to be good for you. Like, this is stuff that nobody tells you is going to throw you back into relapse. I know, like, a lot of you guys, like, the number one thing that gets you the most discouraged, that gets you guys down the most, is because you guys relapse. And like you feel terrible when you relapse. But I'll tell you right now, like, you want to cut those chances in half. Start eating better. Okay. I know it's not the most economically affordable thing to always be buying organic, always avoiding the conventional stuff. I know it's difficult, but you got to figure it out. You got to find a way. Okay? What I realized is that I was an overeater. That's why I was 260 pounds. That's why I used to be 260 pounds. I was an overeater. So what I realized, I was having a lot of bad food, and it was not very high quality. So I was having a lot of low quality food. What I realized was the reason why I'm so fat and out of shape is because I'm eating a lot and it's low quality. So what I did instead was, okay, I know that I have to eat a lesser quantity, but I have to have a higher quality of food. And believe it or not, when I reduced what I was eating by about 50%, it actually balanced out. Because and I'm just thinking from like an economical standpoint, okay? I know for a lot of you guys are still struggling financially. Like, I know it's not always the easiest thing to go to the grocery store and buy the organic healthy stuff, but you have to understand, you could either, like I said, you could either eat a lot of the unhealthy stuff or you could eat a little bit of the healthy stuff. And right now, if you guys are out of shape and you got that beer belly, or you're like holding on to those love handles, you have to you have to reduce the quantity of what you're eating, and you have to make sure that it's a higher quality. And it actually worked itself out. So like, if you're used to eating a pound of low quality chicken, then the alternative to that on the opposite end, and let's just say like the pound of chicken would normally cost, like, I don't know what chicken runs these days, but let's just say it's like $1.99 a pound. Okay, for the low quality chicken. If you were to get the organic chicken, but you were only having half a pound, I think organic chicken runs somewhere around like, I don't know, like $5 a pound. If you were to have just half of it, you have half a pound of chicken. Now you only spend 250. So 250 in comparison to $2 a pound, not that much different. So you lower the quantity of what you're eating, but you make sure it's high quality versus having high amounts of food and it's very low quality. So you see how it kind of like works itself out. It's almost about the same. Organic is still going to be relatively expensive no matter what, but you can offset that by lowering the quantity. And you guys might be saying, "Well, Tyler, why should I starve myself? Why should I lower what I'm eating?" Some of you need to stop fucking eating. Some of you guys need to stop eating like a fucking pig. Some of you guys need to actually learn to recognize in your brain when you feel what's called satiated, when you feel satisfied, when you feel full, when you feel like you don't have to stick that next drumstick in your mouth. Some of you guys need to learn. So when you say, "Oh, well, why would I starve myself?" Because you need to learn. I'm not saying you need to learn to starve yourself, but you need to learn when your body is actually full. You got to recognize the difference when is my body full versus when is my body just continuously eating because that's what it's used to. Okay? So, yeah, really great. So we went a little bit over on the wins part, but let me jump into today. So I saw that you guys have a lot of other wins here. Really, really good stuff. I'm really proud of you, especially the one that put here went on a bike ride today. Um, let's see. Started my first business plan. Good. Cold called. Good. Good job, guys. Very good job. Proud of you. All right, so let's get into today's lesson. So I did a video on this already, and I'm gonna give you guys like the expanded version of this. Actually, I'm gonna give you the higher value version of this. All right. So let's talk about, and this is something that I actually haven't included in the course. I actually might do one additional like bonus lesson on this because this is like brand new stuff that you guys haven't learned in the course yet, but I'm going to teach it to you today live. So you guys know that I used to be addicted for 20 plus years, how I was living in my car, how I used to be homeless. I remember um, I used to find parking lots to go sleep in. And I remember certain nights being so freezing cold that the cold would wake me up. Like I'd be so like freezing cold and I would like wake up and I'm like waking up in a shiver. And I would have to like, and I would sleep. So like I would have to sleep in the back seat and then I would like move on over to the front seat and I would turn on the car and let it run for a little bit so that I could turn on the heater and kind of warm myself up. But I always got scared of doing that because when I would turn the car on, I didn't want to attract attention to the car because I didn't want like security to hear it, or I didn't want like my luck would have been the police were driving by and seeing. So I didn't want to start the car sometimes. And it's funny because you would think, "Oh, well, like, the heat of your body would, like, stay trapped inside the car," but it's so much colder outside, especially during the winter months, that it doesn't even, like it doesn't keep you warm enough. Your body heat traps is trapped within the car, but it doesn't keep you as warm as you think. Um, why do I say this? Well, because I was watching corn to such a very, very high degree. The the th I never had the opportunity to actually see what was going on in my brain, and because I was struggling that low, your brain just goes into kinda like survival mode. So I'm sleeping in the car, I'm homeless, I'm out of shape, fat, I'm broke, literally, like, nothing to my name, not like 260 plus pounds, just terrible life. And that is very like survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, it is very difficult, very, very difficult to get yourself out of it. I feel like you can't rely on willpower alone. So, like I said, the reason why I say this to you guys is because in our discussion today, in our lecture today, there is a part of your brain that I discovered in my research. Remember, like I told you guys, for those of you guys that don't know, the way that I figured out how to get out of watching corn and being addicted to it, I was in a library every single day for about a year, and I pulled every single psychology book that I could, and I just read through as many books as I could every day. So at that time, I was an Uber driver. This was not too long ago. This was just literally not even 3 years ago. I was an Uber driver and I was driving 12 hours every single day. 12 hours. That was my shift. And I would stop and take my lunch breaks, I would take morning breaks, I would take different types of breaks at the library. And I would stay in these libraries for sometimes 1 hours all the way up to 6 hours. And like I said, I pulled psychology books and I would learn everything that I could about my brain. The reason why I would learn that is because I wanted to know why I was stuck where I was. And so I over time, what I realized in all of these, in studying all of this, 365 days, actually, let's do the math. Let's just say, honestly, I was in a library longer than 365 days, but I can honestly say for a good year, for sure, I was there 365 days. And for those of you like, oh, what about libraries that are closed on Monday? You don't think I didn't check out a book and I didn't read those pages? So 365 days. Let's say I read about, on average, let's call it about 50 pages a day. So in a year's time, I read about 18,000 pages of psychology. Okay. And what I've learned is that if you guys are in the course, there are certain parts of your brain that you can trick to not only get yourself out of watching corn, but to take that obsessive energy and redirect it into something else that's going to be more positive for your life. I know a lot of you guys on the call, you guys already know that I live here by the beach. This is my beach. This is like my beach house that I live at. Um, every morning, I love telling people this because when I was living in my car, I used to get like a knock at the door, at my car door at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And like I said, it was like security or the police trying to kick me out of the parking lot. And that was my 3 o'clock alarm, basically. But nowadays, here at the beach house, when I'm asleep up in my room, there is something that still wakes me up at 3 a.m. But it's not a knock. It is the sound of the ocean waves. And to be able to go from not even that long ago, a knock at the window and it's security and I'm cold and I have to pee. And that's the other thing, is trying to find a place to go pee when you're homeless, when you're just living in your car. To now hearing the sound of the ocean waves here at the beach house, like this, what I'm about to share with you is what I attribute to being able to go from that to that, to being able to go from 260 pounds to losing 50 pounds up to this point, to waking up at 2 p.m. every single day. Now I wake up at 5 a.m. every single day. You guys see me how I do my workouts and all of that. And like I said, being an Uber driver, driving 12 hours every single day, and now I own two businesses and I work a 9 to 5 job. So I've got three different streams of income. So let's dive into this. So a lot of you guys are kind of in denial. A lot of you guys are, at least people that I work with people who are curious about whether or not they have an addiction or not. I bring up the word addiction. And sometimes like guys, like you may or may not know it, but sometimes your wives come to me and say like, I think he has an addiction. And when I bring it up to you, you say, "Oh, I don't have an addiction." Like, it's not an addiction. Why? Because an addiction suggests that you need help, and sometimes we don't want help. And whether you want to call it an addiction or a dependency or you lean on porn, whatever the case is, I'm going to give you some indicators that you have in addiction. Now, by the way, I'm not certified. I'm not a doctor. I'm not psychologist. I'm not anything like that. I'm just a guy that sat in the library for 365 days and read close to 20,000 pages on psychology. Okay. So even though I'm not licensed, I know what I'm talking about. Okay. And there are things that are great, great indicators that you got a dependency on corn. Okay. I know this because a lot of this stuff applied to me as well. So don't think that I'm just throwing it out there just because I also learned it. I also experienced it. And by the way, when I got out of watching corn every single day, everything that I'm about to list for you completely stopped. So, number one, do you always feel tired? If you're always tired, or you wake up in the morning, you hit the snooze button a bunch of times, or you're just not a morning person, I'll tell you one thing. People who are purpose driven, people who are like all about what they're doing in life, like know their purpose, know what they were put on this earth to do, like that, like they're like so goal driven. They do not, the minute their eyes open, they cannot fall back asleep. There's been times in everybody's life where you were so excited for something, like when you were a kid and you knew you were going to Disneyland that morning, the minute your eyes woke up, you could not fall back asleep. Or when you woke up on Christmas, that's a really good example. When you woke up on Christmas, did you fall back asleep or did your eyes open up really wide and you ran over to see what kind of presents that you had? That is the exact same feeling that I have every single day waking up at 5 a.m. My eyes open, I'm like, "Okay, I have a mission, there's something to do." And when you stop watching corn, you no longer get that tired feeling. You become very purpose driven. You're like, "Let's get to it." Okay? So that's number 1. Number 2 is if you procrastinate. So are you a procrastinator? Are you the type that's like, "Oh, I'll get to it later." And then later comes and now you're rushing to get started. That's a really big indicator. Number 3, do you crave sugar? Okay? Ice cream guy. Ice cream guy, are you craving sugar? And great on you for putting it back, but you got those sugar cravings, right? Um, I remember like I used to back then when I was really, really heavily addicted, I could not go the day without having some ice cream, or I would have to go to like Dollar Tree and get like a pack of Skittles. I would buy myself chocolates all the time. Like I had to have it. And I just thought to myself, well, I just got a sweet tooth. But it wasn't that. It was a heavy dependence on the sugar, on the glucose spike. So if you're constantly craving sugar, then that's another one as well. Are you out of shape? Are you overweight? Step on the scale and look at what your BMI is. It's If your BMI is 27 or more, you are out of shape, my friend. In fact, most people would say that the average or the ideal BMI should be 26. They call that the surfer's BMI. I think they did a study not too long ago that the 26 BMI is the like universal BMI of the most attractive people, something like that. That's what I'm trying to get to, right? So just know that even I'm still trying to get to something like that. I'm pretty close, but I'm trying to get to something like that. And you know, you got to put in the work to get there too. So just understand that it's not something that you could just, you know, get right away. Even though I've lost 50 pounds, like I'm not at that BMI yet. And it doesn't even have to, you don't even have to, you know, look at yourself and be like, well, what kind of BMI am I? If you're just out of shape, if you know, I live here in the hills basically. If you at the base of the hills, and there's hills that I can walk up to get, you know, to like these like walking spots around here. If you're the type that if you can't even walk up a hill and you're out of shape and you get winded after just a couple of steps, my friend, you are out of shape. Last one is, are you bad with money? Is your finances not doing too well? Are you struggling financially? You know, when you go to the grocery store and you buy some groceries, do you actually start thinking, oh well, should I buy this? Well, you know, this is $3. So, you know, maybe if I buy this, like this is $2, so I'll save a dollar. Or if that's your mentality when you go to something like the grocery store, then you're struggling financially, right? One of the basic things, and I know groceries are expensive. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand groceries are expensive, but when you go to the grocery store, You should be able to pick out the things that you exactly know that you're going to eat, and you should so, like, when you get your total bill at the grocery store, when you see it's like $200, you're like, "Hmm, pretty high price," but you pay for it anyways. But if you're the type where you're going to, like, every single thing that you're picking up and you're like, "Well, this one's 5, but this one's 4, so, like, I should get this one because 'cause I'm saving." That is a good indication that you're struggling financially, okay? Like, I know some people are like, "Oh, well, I'm just frugal, like, I'm just" okay, I get it, but if you also have to understand there's a money to time thing here. So if you're gonna spend your time picking up 2 pieces of steak and you're gonna decide, should I save a dollar or spend a dollar? If you're gonna do that with every single thing, you have a problem with not valuing your time. In fact, a lot of the times what I'll do is I will go on my phone, order everything that I want, let somebody else go do the shopping for me, and then I will get a text message saying, "Your order's ready." So then I'll just go drive and pick it up. In fact, where I live right here, I can walk and pick up my groceries. Okay. If you don't value your time, if you don't value that, then that's also a good indicator that you're struggling. But more so it's like if you're bad with money. Okay. So just some indicators, all right? Um two other ones because I got some notes here. Two other ones that I wanted to mention was that if you got anger issues. So do little things bother you? Do you rush things? You know, if you're trying to make some breakfast, are you the type that like has to rush to do it either because you're running late or that's just your nature? Do you rush things? Okay. So let's talk about today's lesson. A lot of you guys, when you got into the course in the very beginning, or a lot of you when you first started your journey to get out of watching porn and you wanted to shift your life towards something better, a lot of you may have identified that corn was the problem. So the reason why I'm not here in life yet is because of corn. And that's largely true. But I want you to take that I want to take that a little bit deeper today. Because like I said, after 20 almost 20,000 pages of reading psychology books, I see things not so much at the surface anymore of what we might talk about, what you might see on like social media, like, oh, porn this, porn that, corn this, corn that. It's actually a little bit deeper. I want you to understand your brain because I want you to learn how to hack your brain in the same way that I hacked mine. So, yes, corn is the problem, but the layer below that, in fact, like 5 layers below that, the actual problem is a word that we have rarely ever heard in our lives. In fact, I would venture to say that this is going to be the first time that you're hearing this word. Corn is the problem, but 5 layers deeper than that, the actual problem is your salience network. Okay. Now, what is salience network? The salience network is like your brain's spotlight. Okay. So I want you to imagine a very dark room. Imagine this room was very dark, the one that I'm sitting in right now. Imagine this is very dark, or the room that you're sitting in. Imagine it's lights out, completely dark. You can't see anything. Okay? And I want you standing in that room to imagine you are your brain. Okay? So if I hand you a flashlight and you flick on that flashlight and you point it in the direction over here off to the left. Okay. You point the flashlight and maybe you notice a chair or maybe you notice a dresser or something like that. And you're pointing that flashlight in the direction of the left. Are you going to be able to turn your head without moving the flashlight? Are you going to be able to turn your head and see what is over there on the right side of the room? Probably not. Because the only way that you could see what is on the right side of the room is if you moved the flashlight so that you could illuminate what is, in fact, on the right side of the room. And so your salience network is like this flashlight. It is what your brain is allowed to see and focus on. So right now, the thing that you are illuminating, the thing that you are predominantly focused on, your salient network is predominantly focused on is corn. So imagine that corn is on the left side of the room, and this flashlight, this spotlight is pointed in that direction. Okay? This corn addiction is off on the left-hand side. And on the right side of the room is everything that you want to do in life. Whether you want to get in shape, have a nice home, live somewhere nice, have a great relationship with somebody, get somebody back in your life, have a nice car, um, live overall happy, have your dream home, kids, all of that other stuff. Like everything that you want in life is on the right side of the room. However, you cannot see that. You cannot make a plan to get there because you don't know how to get there. In fact, if you were to keep that flashlight fixated on the left side of the room and you try to walk to the right, you're going to trip over stuff. You're going to trip, you're going to fall, you're going to hurt yourself, and that flashlight is only staying on the left side of the room. So what do you need? And that's your focus. That's the only thing that you're able to see is what's on the left side of the room, which is corn. So now the question becomes, how can you move that flashlight to the right side of the room? Now, non-addicts, people that are not addicted, who don't have any kind of addiction to corn whatsoever, they can control this flashlight. Now, I wanna substitute flashlight with like a spotlight. Okay. Have you ever seen how in the movies, there's big giant like spotlights that you can move, like big giant lights. You hold it like with two hands, a handle on each side, and there's a big giant light, almost like that of the size of like one that you would see in a lighthouse or a movie set or something like that. Imagine a big, big spotlight, and it's focused on the left side of the room. Okay, so non-addicts have the ability to shift that spotlight to the right side of the room or whatever part of the room that they want to become fixated on because they're not addicted. They don't have any kind of addiction or dependency or anything like that. Now, they can move it, non-addicts, they can move it, but it's a very slow process, right? So imagine, you want to move your spotlight in the direction of having all the things that you want in life. Well, just like anybody who lives a normal regular life and is not addicted to corn, it's going to take you some time to get there, right? So you would take that spotlight and you're gonna move it. It's heavy, right? It's heavy, so it's gonna take some time for you to move it. It's a slow process, but eventually you get there. But as addicts, we struggle to move that spotlight. We struggle to move it. It's like anchored into the ground and it's heavy. It's very difficult for us to move it. So when we try to move our spotlight, we take it and then we move it and we're like, "Oh, I can't really move it." And maybe it moves like an inch or two and we're trying and we're trying and we're trying. We're trying to get it towards the right side of the room because we want to head towards our goals, and then it's just too much for us and we let go, and that spotlight is like almost like it almost brings itself back. It's, I forgot the word for it, but it just like fixates and bounces back to where it originally was on the right side of the room. And that process of when we let go of the flashlight or the spotlight rather, and it moves its way back on the left side of the room, that's a relapse, guys. When we just can't hold on to the flashlight or the spotlight any longer and we let it go. Now, if there's anything good that came out of being an Uber driver for 12 hours every single day, was that I drove in the exact same area that I was I'm looking at it right now because I have a view of all of the mansions here in Laguna Beach and all that, but in the same I used to drive these hills right here. I used to drive up and down these hills, picking up all the rich people who've got like $20 million homes. And I remember asking them, like, hey, what do you do for a living? Like, how did you get here? All this other stuff. I met two different types of people, healthy people and unhealthy people. Now, I'm not talking about fat and out of shape, like unhealthy, although that certainly was the case sometimes. But I was talking about people, I'm talking about people that are unhealthy within the mind or healthy in the mind, spiritually, emotionally. I would met guys who were ultra successful. They were just like functioning addicts, but you could tell like their lives were just terrible. Like they had the money, they had everything that they could possibly need to live comfortably, but they did not have a comfortable life, if that makes sense. Like, their relationships were terrible. A lot of them told me that their kids don't even talk to them anymore. A lot of them, so many told me that they were divorced, they're on their 3rd marriage, and yeah, and then there were a lot of people who were very healthy in the mind who I remember were just very like all about, being ethical or all about being hardworking, being dedicated to the people who love them and the people who worked for them and all of that. Like you could tell there was a stark difference between the guys that I met and the women who were unhealthy people because and like I said, were probably just functioning addicts, and then others who were very healthy and probably people that we would try to emulate. In fact, I'm sometime down the future, I'm gonna try to get some of those people on interviews. So hopefully I can get into like doing some interviews with them. 'Cause I did meet a lot of them and there were a lot of them who's I still keep in contact with from time to time. And I would love for them to be guests on maybe like a podcast or something like that. So we'll see. Um so yeah, so understand that your brain is kind of blind or it's not able to see because it is a dark room, and salience is the spotlight to help you see. Remember, like I said, our key topic is salience right now. So, salience is not a word that is brand new. It's actually existed in many different cultures for thousands of years. In Buddhism, in Buddhism, their version of salience is called tana. And tana is the craving desire that leads to suffering, kind of like what corn does. It's the craving desire for you to want to watch it, and then whatever the consequences are that leads to suffering, that's what happens to you after you watch it so many times. In Sanskrit, they call it klesha. And klesha is the destructive mental state that clouds your clarity. So in the SAA program, we often called this the bubble, where you're in this destructive mental state. And once you're in this bubble, it's like soundproof. Nobody can like get through that bubble to get through to you. And for that reason, it clouds your clarity. So in Sanskrit, they called this klesha. And there is another version of it in Hindu, but they call it so in Hindu they call this asakti, but theirs is a little bit different. The asakti is like attachment, and with asakti you either have a healthy level or an unhealthy level. So just think of asakti as like a neutral attachment. And this is actually very good for you to know because, like I said, not only are we trying to end our addiction, we're trying to do something amazing with our lives. And when you have healthy asakti, you can have an attachment towards the things that you want out of life. But an unhealthy asakti is things like that you're gravitating to right now, which is corn, or maybe you're cheating, or maybe you are cam models and all these other destructive things. Right. So where is your asakti right now? Is it unhealthy? Is it healthy? Is it somewhere in the middle? Like where is your asakti right now? Okay, so that's the different versions of salience that exist in other cultures. Now, corn is very, if you haven't learned this already, corn's very salient. Why is corn very salient? The reason why it's very salient is because corn is very high stimulation. It gives you one of the biggest dopamine spikes, and it's one of the highest and longest sustained dopamine spikes. In fact, corn's dopamine spike is worse than amphetamine. It's worse than, I don't even know if I could say this, but like the white powder stuff that adults like. It's higher than that. It's higher than in intimacy with somebody. It's higher than all of those. The spike is somewhere around what you would experience with substances and things like that. But when you're taking substances, when you have intimacy, that spike comes down rather quickly. However, with corn, you get that spike and it takes several hours for it to come down. So it's a big spike and it comes down gradually versus these substances and intimacy and even if you have good food like sugar, it's like spike, whoop, come down. So your dopamine like levels come down, so you're ready to go do it again. But corn gives you a long sustain. So like you're living off that sustained high. It's really, really bad. So, anyways, corn is highly salient because it's very high stimulation and it's very low effort. So anything that's high stimulation, low effort is very easy to become addicted to. I'll give you the perfect example. Gambling machines. Gambling machines is very high stimulation because you got this like fantasy of what if I win the jackpot? Okay, like let's give it a shot. Like, oh my gosh, my life could change so much if I hit this jackpot. Very high stimulation, but what kind of effort does it take for you to try to get to that point? All you got to do is pull a lever on the slot machine. You just pull a lever. So low effort, pulling a lever, high stimulation of the possibility of what it could be. So that's number one. Number two, the reason why corn is highly salient is because you get an emotional charge out of it. So corn is very private. You know, we watch these things alone by ourselves. Maybe we have or had somebody else that we watch it with. But it's often very private. The things that we watch sometimes are very taboo. It's not stuff that's generally accepted in our society. It's forbidden type stuff. It's very fantasy driven. So there's a lot of novelty, and you've heard me say this before. There's a lot of novelty in this. Let me give you the perfect example of this. So we have two different places that you can go to today, right now. You can go one of two places. What are you more curious about knowing what's there? A patch of grass in some random field down the street, or Area 51? What are you more curious to know where are you more curious to go? Would you like to go check out the patch of grass in the middle of nowhere? Or would you like to see what's in Area 51? Or let's just say you don't even care that much about Area 51. Let's just say Disneyland or a new restaurant opens or something like that. Um, that a restaurant that only the most elite people are allowed to go to, or Disneyland opens up a park specifically for celebrities. Don't you want to know what that's like more than the patch of grass? Of course you do, because it's it's private, it's forbidden, it's fantasy driven. You're more curious about that, right? So that's why corn is very salient, because a lot of it is very taboo, it's very forbidden, it's very it's a lot of it's things that you cannot have. So that's why it becomes very salient. The other reason is that it gives you a quick reward. So all you got to do is just click on a thumbnail, you can watch it and you got that quick reward. What is the quick reward? Well, it's a moment of intimacy. And a lot of people think, well, it's not really intimacy because I'm not having physical contact with the people that I'm watching. But you got to understand, when you watch corn, you know, Are you achieving the O? Because that's what you do when you have relations, like physical contact relations with a partner, right? So if you're getting the O while watching corn, same exact deal. And even for those of you that say, "Well, I don't get an O." I don't get an O. For there's a few of you that I've met that are like, "Oh, I don't do it to get the O. I just kind of like to watch it and observe it." There's also that element of, well, are you not watching and observing your partner when you're having this intimate connection? It's the same thing, right? It's the exact same thing. Would you watch corn if you had to have your eyes closed and your ears plugged? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. Otherwise, like, what's the point? So quick reward. The other thing is that it's very predictable. Corn's very predictable. You know, if you see if you see the title of the video that says blank gets blanked by blank, I'm not going to fill in those words, but you guys watch corn, you guys can fill in the title for me. So if you see blank gets blanked by blank, then you already know what you're getting when you click on that video. Okay, so it's very predictable. Your brain knows what it's going to get. Now, I'm going to teach you how to move. Let's go back to the spotlight. I'm going to teach you how to move that spotlight over to the right side of the room. On the right side of the room is everything that you want to do in life, and I want it to get like locked in. By the way, I didn't finish what I wanted to say about highly successful people. The highly successful people that I met learned to not only focus their spotlight on the right side of the room, but they also anchored that spotlight into the ground to the point where now what I've noticed is that they try to, and maybe they're not doing this on purpose, maybe it's like a subconscious thing, but what I noticed that the highly successful people that I met that were financially successful. Physically, they looked amazing. Had great relationships, just very overall well-rounded people. There was like about 20 to 25 or so that I had met. All of these people had to have had net worths of over $5 million. What I noticed about them is that their spotlight was so anchored into the ground that they almost made a game out of it to try to move that spotlight somewhere else. And they just can't. They are so locked in and focused on their goals, on the things that they want to do out of life. And like I said, it is almost like a game to them to be like, can I move my spotlight? Up, can't do it. Like they're competing, they're competing against themselves. So one side of themselves wants to try to move it back and they allow it. But then the other part of them, the one that lives in the present in the moment, is purposely holding it down. It's like a game to them, like that it seems like. So I'm going to teach you how to move that spotlight to move it off to the right-hand side. And then at over time, maybe one day later on, I'll teach you how to keep that thing anchored so that this way you guys can be a lot like them in the sense that it's like, how do we move it? Right. And make a game out of it. So before I get into the things that you can do in order for you to move your spotlight, let me give you 3 things that you must be cognizant of, you must be aware about when you are moving the spotlight. Because I would love to tell you that it's easy to move the spotlight to the right side of the room so that you could be focused on your goals. But it's not that easy because as you move that spotlight, there are going to be things that happen as you move this spotlight. Okay? There are going to be things that try to move you back into that. And this is what I call the 3 landmines of relapse. There's actually a total of 9, but I'm going to give you the 3 main things that 95% of guys that relapse blew up one of these landmines. Okay. You have to be very cognizant of this and understand that these 3 landmines are going to be the things that cause you to explode back to the left side of the room. So, what are the 3 landmines of relapse? By the way, if you allow one of these landmines if you step on one of these landmines, and what is and the equivalent of stepping on a landmine is allowing it to take over your life, is allowing it to get the better of you, is not finding a way to counter it. Okay. The first landmine of relapse is stress. Okay, so as you're working to move your spotlight from the left side of the room to the right so that you can be more focused on things that you want in life and not watch corn anymore because it's destroying your life and holding you back from the things that you want to get to. Stress is going to be one of those things that prompts the spotlight to almost like slingshot back to the left side of the room. So as you are doing this process, and I'm going to give you 3 steps on how to move that spotlight. So we're going to do the 3 landmines of relapse, and then I'm going to give you the 3 steps for you to move that spotlight from the left side of the room to the right. So the way that you can make sure that you don't step on that stress landmine is you need to be actively doing things that are not stressing you out. So for example, great job to our guy earlier today who said, I haven't had a single argument with my wife. You want to avoid stuff like that because that's going to cause you stress. The more stress, so everybody has a stress threshold. Okay. Some of us can handle very high levels of stress. Some of us can only handle a very little bit of it. And if we pass that threshold, that's what forces us to want to come back down. So all of us are used to some level. There's like a level that we're only able to tolerate. If we get past that, we need something to bring us back down. You ever get that moment you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. I just need to relax." Right? So everybody has that line. Some of us it's really low, some of us it's really high. If you get past that, you're going to want to watch corn. So the way that you make sure you don't even get past that threshold is you must do things to keep it low. You got to do things to keep it low. Why do you think that I walked 7 miles every single day and still continue to do it? The reason why is because if I'm walking, it's very low stimulation and it's very calming. And that's why I chose to be living by the beach because I'd rather do those 7 freaking miles on the ocean looking at the sunset. I'm giving up my sunset today right now so I could be on the call with you guys, but it's okay. I'll do a night walk later on. But yeah, like you've gotta make sure that you're doing things that are going to lower your stress. Now, I don't want you guys to say, "Well, ice cream lowers my stress," so it's gotta be something that's good and productive. So going to the gym or, I would say maybe just like even if like I hate to say this, but even if video games helps you just to calm down, relax, I feel like video games is very high stress. But if it does something for you, then that's good. Make sure that just doesn't become an addiction for you as well. Stress is number one. Number two, the third landmine is boredom. Whether you like this person or not, I'm gonna quote something from Donald Trump where he was asked about addiction. And his response to it is one that I think that is something that a lot of addicts need to really start paying attention to and understand. He was asked like, how do you get over addiction? Like how do you stay away from being an addict? And his answer was stay busy. Okay. So I totally 100% agree with that. I don't care who it came from. Doesn't matter if you like them or not. Some people do, some people don't. It's all right. But what I will say is that staying busy is the absolute number one way to avoid stepping on the boredom landmine. When you're bored, you have that option, you have that ability to watch it. I remember about, I think it was like a year ago, I was watching this video about this porn addiction guy, and he was telling a story about how he walked into his boss's office and his boss was always busy. And the corn addiction guy who was like, I guess he was working for like some office or something like that, so like some office setting. He asked his boss, he goes, "Man, you're so busy all the time. Do you ever you ever get the time to watch corn?" Like jokingly said that. And the boss like literally locked in on his computer, looks up and goes, "If I had the time, I would." which is crazy because when I got that level of busy too, I understood what the boss meant. If I had the time, I would. Now, I'm not saying that if I had the time, I would, but what I am saying is that when you are so busy, it's so true. When you're so busy, the time just go flies by. You've got so many things to do that you can't even put yourself in a position to watch it, which is it's insane. So pack your day with stuff to make appointments for yourself. Go meet up with friends. Go for long walks. You know, if you find that you're watching corn in your bedroom or in your bathroom, or you do it when you're on your break or something like that, if you find out that's where it is, create some stuff to keep you busy that gets you out of that area, okay? Stay busy is how you avoid the landmine of boredom, okay? The third landmine is loneliness, okay? So this kinda goes back to where I said, make sure that you know, have set appointments, date appointments with friends, call up some people, stay on the phone with them, ask them how they're doing, call your family, call your loved ones, people that you really like. Um, you gotta avoid being lonely because when you're lonely, you crave connection. As humans, we all crave connection, right? The fact that I'm on this live webinar call, a lot of you guys appreciate the fact that you could see my face and I'm talking to you guys. But what if I did this webinar and you guys couldn't see my face? It doesn't have as much there's not much connection there, right? We love connection. We love to see people's faces. We love to see people. We like to see them talking. We like to see their faces. We like to see their expressions. We like to see all these different things. And so if you were just only listening, there's not much of a connection. Okay. And imagine if all of this that I'm saying to you guys, imagine if I just typed this all out, right? That's like another like level down. It's not really that much of a connection. You're just reading something that I typed up. So make sure that you guys are finding ways not to be lonely and don't avoid loneliness in like a way that's going to be destructive for your life because there's ways to not be lonely, but it's also unhealthy. For example, a lot of you guys have cam model addictions. That's how you avoid loneliness, right? But there are a lot more there's a lot healthier ways for you to not be lonely. For example, like I said, you could call your family, call your friends, you can call your loved ones. What I like to do sometimes if I feel lonely, I really hardly ever feel that, but every now and again, I'll say like every couple of months or so, I'm like, man, I feel kind of lonely right now. I will just go down to the beach. It doesn't even have to be the beach. I could just go to a restaurant or something like that, and I'll just talk to someone. And I'll just talk to someone, have a conversation with them for like 5 minutes, and that's all I need. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not lonely. And that 5-minute conversation spikes my dopamine, makes me feel accomplished. Hey, I talked to somebody, or like, hey, I made a friend or a connection or something like that. It's all you need. It's a little 5-minute conversation for you to not feel lonely. So those are the three landmines of relapse. So now our question is, how do we remove that spotlight? How do we take it away from corn and move it to the direction where we are now doing a productive, amazing things for our life? So, um, the first thing that I suggest that you do. So keep in mind the three landmines of relapse. As you're doing these three things, keep in mind that those landmines of relapse are going to kind of explode your process, are gonna affect your process of moving that spotlight, and it's gonna like move it back. So make sure you're avoiding the landmines. But number one for how to move that spotlight to the right side of the room is you need to lower your tolerance. And what do we mean by that? Because when I was growing up, if my mom used to say, I have zero tolerance for that. And the way that I've always thought of the word tolerance from hearing that was she's gonna get upset if I do this because she has zero tolerance for me, sneaking a cookie. Right. So zero tolerance. That means she's gonna get mad at me. But tolerance in the psychological sense is almost like a threshold, going back to the topic of the word threshold. So you need to get used to low stimulation again. This is why I like going for a walk, because when you're going for a walk, there's a lot to see, sure, but you're pretty much it's very low stimulation in comparison to stuff that you could be doing, like watching porn or doing substances with friends, or even just doesn't even have to be destructive. Sitting at a restaurant talking with friends, that's very high stimulation. So going for a walk, seeing the same things that you see every single day, is very low stimulation. It's very predictable. So you need to lower your tolerance. Now, what are some ways that you can lower your tolerance? There's actually a lot of ways that I've already explained inside of the course on how you can lower your tolerance. This is one of the things that I mentioned to you guys, but you could start going on walks a lot more. If you really want to challenge yourself, I challenge you to sit down in a chair and sit in boredom for about 5 minutes. Now, some of you are like, well, am I not trying to not step on the boredom landmine? But I want you to be in control of it. It's the same reason why I tell you guys, do not get porn blockers. Do not put blockers on your phone. Do not set up like alerts on your phone not to go on, or stuff like that, because you want to be in control of it, right? If you put on a blocker, the blocker is in control of whether you watch it or not. You're not in control of it because you're depending on the blocker. The blocker is the crutch. It's the same reason why I don't necessarily take medications. Like I don't take pills or any kind of medications for something. Even if I have like pain in my arm or something like that, I don't take a medication that's going to take away the pain. Why? Because I want to be in control of this pain and not have a pill be in control of it for me. So what will I do instead? Well, I'll do some stuff that I know is going to help with the pain in my arm. I could ice the arm, I could put some heat on it. I could use what are they going to say? Some like holistic type of practices in order to make sure that the arm is okay. These are things that I can control, right? But I don't want to rely on a pill to be the thing that fixes my arm. So going back to what we're talking about with sitting in boredom, you want to welcome that because you want to be in control of you being in boredom. So you should be able to sit there bored and sit there and let your mind race. A lot of us, when we just sit there, we think about things in the future, we think about our day, we think about a lot of things. You got to be in control of your mind when you're sitting there in boredom. That's going to allow you to lower your tolerance. Why? Because when you're only stimulated by just your thoughts, you don't see anything else, you're not engaging in anything else, your tolerance will start to drop. Okay, because right now your tolerance is super high and you're being affected by, phone calls, your phone, social media, corn, all these other different things. So you want to just if you could just sit in boredom and just sit alone with your thoughts. Another good one is if you sit in the car and you're driving, don't listen to any music. Take away the things that are adding stimulation to you. That's one way that you're going to lower your tolerance. And then another one that I like to do, this is one that I do personally. I like to just cook. I'll cook some of my food for the week. Very low stimulation, just taking a look at the chicken and the salts and just, putting stuff together. It's very low stimulation. So we got to lower our tolerance with some of these things. Now, as I've always said, this process for you is going to be like going back to the slot machine example, it's going to be like playing a slot machine, except in this scenario, whenever you play the slot machine, you know how the way you win is if you get cherry, 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 or lemon, lemon, lemon. So if you get like cherry, lemon, bar, that's not a winner. Everything has to line up perfectly. So walking for you may not work. Everybody's going to be different. You have to be like a mad scientist and test things out here. So walking may not work for you, but cooking might. Or sitting in boredom may not work for you, but calling your friends and family might. You have to find your cherry. You have to find that component of it to get it locked in. And then the other two we're going to talk about in just a second. so we can get cherry, cherry, cherry. All right. So number one is lowering your tolerance. Um, One of the things that I would like for you guys to do over this week is I want you to start testing some things. I want you to test at least 3 different things that you could do to lower your tolerance. That is the key. That is the first step in the redirect method is lowering your tolerance. Lowering your tolerance is by far probably the most important thing. If you don't do anything else, lower your tolerance. Learn to lower your tolerance. Number 2 is for you to create new salient targets. So you may have things in your life that you want to chase. Better body, nice place to live. It's another one that we could waking up early. There's a lot of things that you want to chase probably. And that's great. But you have to create those targets. And what I mean by that is you can't just say, well, I want to build a business. You have to create the actual target. What kind of business? How would you get there? Whoever wrote today that their win was, I created my business plan, good. You're creating new salient targets. Okay. Your brain needs to believe that whatever we're going to shift the spotlight away from towards away from corn and into something else, your brain needs to believe that whatever we're shifting to is worth chasing. So if you tell your brain, we're going to start a business, it's not 100% believable to your brain because your brain can't see the clear pathway to get there. But if you were to tell your brain, well, we're going to start a salon business, and the way we're going to start the salon business is number one, we are going to get all of our supplies. We're going to do this type of advertising. We're going to go to this salon expo so we can learn more like industry practices and all of that. When you give your brain a clear path to getting the business started or whatever it is that you want to do, maybe you want to lose weight. Okay, when you give it a clear path to get to, I want to lose 30 pounds or whatever, then your brain believes that it's worth chasing because now it can see a clear path. This is actually this is actually, because you guys are in the course, this is actually one of the 3 parts of your brain that you have to trick. Don't say what it is because I'm actually gonna put this live call on social media today. But what is that? What is that part of your brain, right? The front part of your brain that you are tricking into making that decision that, okay, we can see a clear path to this thing. Let's go ahead and follow that. But if I were just to say, let's build a business, you already know how to get to corn. You already know what to type. You already know what to search for. You already know what thumbnails to look for if you're looking for like a certain type of video. You already know what you're looking for. You can see the clear path to getting that relief. So your brain is so locked in and focused on it, and it believes that that's worth chasing. You got to give your brain a similar kind of process, but you got to do it in a way that it's going to want your brain to move over to the right side of the room. Okay. And if you don't have any kind of new target whatsoever, you might be able to move that spotlight a little bit. But if you have nothing to illuminate on the right side of the room, well, your brain's just going to default back to going to watching corn. Okay. So create new salient targets. Your brain has to believe that this is worth chasing. Okay. Okay. Number 3 is you need to show your brain. Now, what do you mean by, what do we mean by that? Because isn't who I am, like what I'm doing right now, isn't my brain making all of these decisions? Yes. And I want you to almost right now I want you guys to separate the, how do I explain it? I want you guys to think that your brain and you are 2 separate things. Your brain learns by what you do. And you might be thinking, well, what I do, isn't it like controlled by my brain? Yes, it is. But you need to show your brain this new pattern because your actions of what you do, the actions that you're doing right now, are so fast, so quick. Your brain learns slowly over time. So if we are giving our brain this clear path on how to get to losing 30 pounds or to get our partner back or to fix our relationships or to get that beach house or whatever it is, you have to show your brain that clear path. And your brain is like a 2-year-old. It's going to learn over time. So if it continuously sees this pattern, it sees this process, then your brain is going to adjust and be like, "Oh, okay, I get it. Like there's a clear path to getting to this." That's what we're gonna that's why I say distinguish your brain from your actual self because your actual self can execute on things way faster than your brain can learn to like adopt and believe it. So if you are taking those quick actions to constantly show your brain this is the path, this is the path, this is the path, this is the path, your brain, which is slow to adapt, slow to learn, will kind of gradually see over time, oh, okay, this is why you escalate over time to like more and more, how do I say, like intense corn because a lot of you guys, in fact, I would say like 80% of you guys always tell me I started out watching some very basic stuff. I never thought that 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, I would be watching this. In fact, I never thought that I wasn't even into this at the time until 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line. And that is because your brain got adjusted to level one. And so it you showed it level two, and then your brain said, "Ah, okay, I can get used to level two." And then you showed your brain level three, and it got used to that until you got to level 10 over a 5 year period. So that's what's happening. In the same way, you need to show your brain, this is level one. All right. Look, this is level one. It's like just teaching a 2 year old. Like, look at this. This is level one. Let's start believing in level one. Brain starts to believe in level one, but now it's like on the right side of the room where we're looking at the more productive stuff for our life. So for you, that could be getting in shape. Maybe you lose 5 pounds. Now your brain goes into that like, oh, I lost 5 pounds. Now you're like, okay, let's try to lose 10 pounds. Then your brain goes, oh, okay, yeah, let's try to lose 10 pounds. And now all of a sudden, it's like the polar opposite of when you started escalating into more intense corn. Now you're escalating into more productive stuff for your life. That's how I was able to get to the beach house here because it started with me just waking up early. And then I'm like, oh, I like this. And then I noticed that because I was waking up earlier, I had more time in the day. So I was doing a little workout here and there, just like going for a walk. And then I started to lose some weight. And I'm like, oh, okay, like let's kick it up a notch. Whoa, I just lost 5 pounds. Let's try to get to 10. Oh my gosh, now I'm down 10. I've never lost 10 before. Let's keep going. And then once I started losing a lot more weight, I'm like, well, what else? What else can we do? Like, and then eventually it got to the point where I'm like, shoot, we're going to live by the beach now. Like this is what I want. Let's go live by the beach. And so it got to that point. So you have to show your brain, guys. You have to show your brain the new pattern so that it can change its target from the left side of the room to the right. Your brain learns like a child does, very slowly, but once it learns, it locks in on that. It observes what you do and then it starts to copy. Okay. So wrapping up here before we do some Q&A, you guys are addicted to the importance that your brain gave corn. So, yes, on the surface level, yes, you are addicted to corn, but 5 layers in, when you look at it from a psychological level, y- you're addicted to the importance of what your brain thinks corn is, to the importance. Do not let that obsessive energy, okay, go to waste. Yes, we don't want to watch corn anymore. Before you stop watching it, though, I want you to take that raw obsessive energy that you used to be watching it with. I want you to harvest that. I want you to find a way to pull it out. I want you to find a way to keep that because there's not a lot of people on this earth that have that ability to become that obsessed with something. Okay. Corn is like, it's like a blessing and a curse sometimes. The good out of this corn addiction is that you have a unique ability to pull raw obsessive energy, and you have the opportunity to hold it for a second and redirect it into something that's more that's better for your life. Do not underestimate how powerful that is. It's what got me living by the beach, listening to the waves every single morning at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's what got me here. It's what did this for me. It's what helped me lose weight. It's what helped me put on muscle. It's what helped me get better relationships with the people around me. It's what helped me have less anger issues. It's what helped me do all the things that I've wanted in life. And you guys just see where I'm at like right now. Like you guys will see over time like how life for me just gets like a little bit better. And it all comes down to how can I win more than I lose? That's it. How do I win more than I lose? And the way that you can do that is by harvesting that raw obsessive energy. Don't just quit watching corn, which is great because it's going to keep you out of trouble. But if you want to progress like way up there in life, if you want to keep people safe in your life, if you want to be able to take care of the people that you love, if you want to be able to do things for you, if you want to be able to be flashy and like all these other things, if you want to do that, you have to harvest that raw obsessive energy that you are putting into corn right now. Okay. And the way that you're going to do that is what? Watching the course. Every one of you that's in this right now has access to the course. Okay? So make sure you're doing that. All right. Let's go into some Q&A. Okay. Let's see. We don't have Did I turn on Q&A for this webinar, guys? Can somebody try to put something in the Q&A for the webinar? So this way I can see let's see. All right, I'm gonna go to the form. Hey guys, just so you know, by our next call, I'm going to redact the old form that we used to use, okay? Because I want us to start using the Zoom webinar Q&A Q&A feature. You can submit your stuff anonymously, okay? Um, Okay, cool. So you guys, okay, I see that the Q&A, you guys can't use it. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go to the form, but just know that after this call, we're not using the form anymore. We're staying within the Zoom call, excuse me, and we're going to do the Q&A mode. If you don't want your name put up there, number one, you could change your name. You could change your name to like Susie or Bob or something like that. Or if your name is Bob, then change it to something else. But um, you could also submit it anonymously. So if you want to ask an anonymous question, you could put that there in the webinar chat. So just know after I'm going to read the submissions today because I see the submissions right now. But just know after this one, we're going to move to the Q&A. All right. All right. So we're going to do some Q&A. All right. Why do certain triggers hit me harder than others? Even after weeks of progress? Why do certain triggers hit you harder than others even after weeks of progress? That's a very good question. So, in order for me to understand that better, I would need to know what your triggers are. But regardless of me not knowing that or not, the answer to that is because some of your triggers have you have more of an emotional attachment to some triggers than others. So, for example, um, if somebody says something to you that is a phrase that you have also heard when you watch corn, that phrase holds some sort of like emotional value to you. Okay, so that phrase might be um something that makes you feel very comforted, or something that makes you feel very validated, or something that makes you feel better about yourself. And if the phrase hits your brain and makes you like wander, and like that hits you harder and makes you want to watch corn, versus another trigger could be if you find that you eat a certain food and you want to watch corn, and when you eat that food you're like, I could watch it, I could not watch it. It's because that the food doesn't have as much of an emotional connection, doesn't have as much of an emotional effect on you as the other one. So the thing is that just understand that you're just kind of like peeling away the triggers over time. So you might have 6, 7, 10, 20 different triggers, but over time as you get better at this after this weeks of progress that you're seeing, you might notice though that these layers, these triggers are starting to not affect you as much. So you might be focused on like the big trigger. You know that like there's that one thing, that one trigger that no matter what happens, like that's the thing that gets you going. But what you might not be seeing is that you're shedding away some of the less important ones, and just kind of like in a snowball effect, the lesser ones are getting peeled away and they're slowly chipping away towards the bigger one. So the answer I would give you right now is just be patient. And the reason why some are hitting you harder than others is because you have a deeper emotional connection to some of them versus others. But just know that if you're following what's in the course, it's on its way. But it's good that you've identified what those triggers are. It seems like you know what your triggers are. So as long as you've done that part, you're in great shape. So just know that it's on its way. And I can probably bet that you've already peeled away some of the triggers already. They don't affect you. They don't affect you as much. Great question. Very great question. Um, why do I keep falling back into the same patterns even when I swear to myself that I'm done? Well, good question. The reason so I would need to know what those patterns are, but generally, I'm just going to try to answer your question here. Generally, the reason why people keep falling back into the same patterns, even when, because this was me, I would stand in the mirror and be like, okay, we're going to do this no more. Like, we got this. Like, we're going to stay strong. And then it only took a week for me to be like back into it. The reason why we fall back into the same pattern is because we are relying on our willpower. And willpower there's only so much willpower that we have in our brain. Like we have like a reserve. So think of like this. I have a cup of coffee right here, and there's coffee in this cup. There's only so much of this that I can drink. So imagine I'm holding this coffee cup throughout the day, and every time that I feel like I want to watch corn, I take a sip and I go about my day. And let's say 10 minutes later, I want to watch corn, and I take another sip and I go about my day. Eventually, what's going to happen is after a certain amount of time, I'm not going to have any more sips to take, right? And I need this sip. I need to have this sip in order for me not to watch corn. So, like this coffee here, your willpower, there's only so much of it that you have within a day. So the reason people fall back into those patterns and they relapse is because they run out of willpower. And so then what's the solution? Well, it kind of goes back to this discussion of what we're talking about. You specifically that asked this question, your homework, what I would like for you to do is really dial in on creating that path to getting to your first win. Or maybe you've hit your first win already. Maybe you're looking to get your second or third one. Whatever win that you're on right now, or if you're working on your foundational redirect, whatever that is, I want you to really come up with a plan. And I want you to start doing those little things that get you towards that ultimate goal. Because if you have that as your crutch, if you're leaning on that, you again will be so busy with it. Remember, busy is the opposite to boredom. You will not have time to fall back into those same patterns when you swear to yourself that you're done. I don't even want you to make the promise. Like, don't look in the mirror and be like, okay, we're done, right? We're done with this, right? Don't even do that. I would much rather you take that energy into creating that pathway, that clear path to getting to what you want. Use that energy instead for that. Okay. Don't try to hype yourself up. Don't look in the mirror and be like, we're done, we're done. That's literally just loading up the willpower to be depleted later. Okay. Good question. Um, hmm. Why does corn feel more appealing than real life intimacy or connection sometimes. Yeah, it really has to do with instant gratification because when you watch corn, there's a couple of things. I'm gonna give you two there's two parts to that answer. Corn feels more appealing than real life stuff because number one, it's instant gratification. So ho let me ask you this. If you watch corn, you achieve the O, right? 95% of us do. When we watch corn, we're gonna achieve the O. And when you want to have intimacy with somebody in real life, most of the time, if nothing goes wrong, you're going to achieve the O. Tell me which one is going to take longer to do. Watch corn or find somebody to have that intimacy with. You can't if you're in a relationship, I want you to pretend that you're single, you're on a dating app or you're in a bar or you're, whatever. You're somewhere, you're trying to meet new people in some way shape or form. Which is quicker? Watching corn. Watching corn is the quickest way for you to get that O and have an intimate moment with somebody else. Okay? So that feels more appealing because it's instant gratification, right? So that's part of the reason why it feels more appealing. And the other thing is let's say you match with somebody on a dating app or you find somebody that you want to approach and talk to in, some kind of setting, maybe you're at like a club or something, and you talk to them. And you could talk for a while, maybe you talk for an hour or something like that. And then you proposition the person to go back to your place. And they say no. Okay, well, not the answer you were looking for, right? But when you watch corn, unless your Wi-Fi is down, are you going to be told no? Absolutely not. You can click on that and no one tells you no. So you don't have to deal with rejection. So that's why it feels more appealing than real life stuff because in with real life it takes longer and you could be told no. But that's life, right? That's why I keep telling you guys, practice delayed gratification because corn has taught you to be able to choose any thumbnail, any person, anything that you want to watch in a fraction of a second. So I want you guys to start practicing delayed gratification. There is a video in the course entirely dedicated to how you can practice delayed gratification. So that's why it feels more appealing than real life. um, does anybody have any questions about? Oh yeah, we do. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about today's topic on salience? Uh, how can I retrain my brain to stop assigning so much importance to corn? How can I retrain my brain to stop assigning so much importance to corn? Okay, it's kind of like a classic, you ever seen a scale? How you put some rocks on one side of the scale and you put a feather on the other side of the scale? Which one's gonna feel heavier? Or which one is going to cause the scale to move the most? It's gonna go this way, right? If we're putting rocks on the left side and a feather on the right side, then the rocks are gonna weigh the scale down. It's gonna tilt off to this side. So you're asking me, how can I retrain my brain to stop assigning so much importance to corn? I want you to think of the weight of the rocks and the weight of the feather as the importance. So, in order for you to not have as much importance with the rocks, you got to turn these rocks into something light, like a blade of grass. And you got to turn this feather into something heavier, like like what's something that's heavy that's like not a rock? Um, like I don't know. No, let's just use another like a big rock, right? Let's just call it a big rock. And so you have to find a way to turn that feather into a big rock. Now the feather is things that you want to do in your life. So how do you turn that feather into a larger rock so that it outweighs the the rocks on the left side of the scale? The way that you turn a feather into a rock is exactly what I said earlier. You have to create a clear path to what it is that you want. Your brain has to believe that the plan that you have given it is believable. And the front part of your brain is like the CEO of your brain and is going to look at that and be like, okay, you've get think about when an executive goes into a meeting with a CEO and the CEO wants a plan on how they can boost their earnings over the next quarter. The executive can't just walk into that and say, "Oh, hello, Mr. CEO. I think that we can raise I think we can raise our quarterly revenue by charging more." And the CEO is going to be like, "No shit. But what's your plan?" And then the executive goes, "Oh, nothing. That's just my plan." The CEO is going to be like, "What the hell? Like that's not believable. I can't see it." But if the executive were to walk into that meeting and say, "The way that I think that we're going to increase our earnings is if we apply a um if we apply a 20-cent increase to all of our top products because based on my research I've seen that the just noticeable difference on our products is 23 cents. So if we do a 20-cent increase, then that should give us this X amount more revenue over this period of time. And it won't affect our customers because the JND for our, like a lot of that stuff you guys don't have to know, but now the CEO is going to be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Our JND is 23 cents. So if as long as we don't charge, if we don't increase our prices more than that, then that should be fine, and we won't lose any customers because we're raising the prices because they won't notice the 20 cent." So, yeah, that's you got to have a plan. So your brain, imagine your brain is like a CEO and you yourself are creating this plan. This plan has to be believable to your brain. So, to go back to your question, how can you retrain your brain to stop assigning so much importance to corn? Make the alternative that you're going to do because on the left side of the room we got corn. On the right side of the room we got all the things that you want to do in life. Make the things that you want to do in life. Just pick one of those things right now. It might be your foundational redirect. I don't know where you're at right now, but if it's not your foundational redirect and you already have that, and you're already moving on to win number two, whatever that is, I need you to create a clear as day path to it. Okay, and I need you to be able to, this is the other component to it. I'm glad you asked this question because your brain also needs to believe that you can execute on it. So you can create a plan. This is where procrastination comes in. Don't be a procrastinator. You can create the plan, or also analysis paralysis comes in. You can create the plan, but your brain also needs to believe you, Mike, you, Bob, or whoever, I believe that you will execute on this. And sometimes you just need make it very, very small execution type stuff. So if your goal is to lose 30 pounds, and you know that you always procrastinate and don't go to the gym and you get off of work early or something like that and you still don't go to the gym, you need step number one has got to be something so basic, so easy and simple to do that it's easy for you to execute on. So if it's like, okay, I know that when I get home, I'm gonna come home no matter what, and I know I'm supposed to go to the gym right afterwards, but what I'm gonna do, and I know that when I come home, I sit in my chair. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit in my chair, and then I'm going to stand up, and then I'm going to walk to my car. I'm not gonna go to the gym, but I am at least going to stand up and walk to the car. That is step number one. And then second thing that you're gonna, and then second step will be, okay, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna sit on the chair, I'm gonna stand up, I'm gonna walk to the car, and then I'm gonna sit in the car and I'm gonna turn on the car and I'm going to drive to the end of the street. By that point, you might just be like, fuck it, I'm already in the car. Let me just go to the gym. Or you might just say, oh, all right, well, I'll just drive a little bit further next time, right? So then the next time is you're going to get up out of the chair, you're going to walk to the car, you're going to start the car, you're going to drive to the gym, and then you are either going to get out of the car and just be like, I'm already here, or you can just drive back. And then the next thing is, on the next day, you're going to do all of that again. You're going to get to the gym. You're going to go into the gym. You're going to lift your weights for like 5 minutes, and then you're going to walk right out. No shame in it. You made it, right? It's better than the alternative of what did you just do on day one? You just sat in the chair and you didn't go. But look, within a couple of days, now you're at the gym. You gotta like progress up to it. So that's how you can start assigning importance to the stuff that you want to do in your life. Just kind of baby step it. Let your mind be like, okay, I can do it. It's the exact same process of me like losing a little bit of weight or walking a little bit more every single day. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do it. I can do it. Like this is actually kind of easy. Okay. So, all right, a couple more questions and then we'll call it a night. T- 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 huh. All right. Can I manipulate salience? But by the way, salience is spelled SALIENCE. Can I manipulate salience to make my redirect more emotionally powerful than corn? Can I manipulate salience to make my redirect more emotionally powerful than corn? Yes. Actually, there is a lesson in the course on how you can make things more emotional. So I will give you a little bit of a snippet because like I said, this I'm gonna post our call on social media. So I don't want to give away too much of what's in the course because you guys paid to be in the course and I want you guys to have that benefit of having exclusive content that I don't put out anywhere else. But what I will say is there a way that you can manipulate salience to make your redirect more emotionally powerful than corn? Let me answer that question with how you can just make something more emotionally um, in how you can make something more emotional for you. So, for example, when I would go to the gym, I would go to the gym and I'd be like, there, I don't want to do this. Like, I know I have to be here, but like, I don't want to do it. And if I had like if I was emotionally charged about going to the gym, I would walk into the gym and be like, let's do this. We are going to get better. I know that after doing this, I am going to be like just a little bit better. And that's going to add up. Like, let's do this. Like, I love this. Like, let's push ourselves. That's emotional. That's emotional like attachment to working out. Now, the way that and the same thing is like with corn. When you turn to corn, you're like, "Oh my god, I need this. Like I'm so stressed out, like I need to numb out or I need this. Like I like this is what I need." You may not say that out loud, but that's what your brain is thinking. So, you're that emotionally attached to corn. I so the way that you can manipulate salience so that your brain stops assigning so much importance to corn is that you're going to find a way to get emotionally attached to the things that you want out of life. So I'm going to continue using like the gym example. One of the ways that I kind of hacked how to become obsessed with the gym was I would watch people that were already obsessed with the gym. And there were a lot of guys that I watched and I studied their mindsets and all of that other stuff. But the person that I started with was Arnold Schwarzenegger. I watched the documentary on him. There's like a funny clip of him being interviewed on like what working out means to him. And I'll never forget, he's like, the greatest feeling of like going to the gym is the pump that you get. The pump, it feels good. It's like coming, like it feels like coming. It's so kind of like weird the way he describes it. But when you attach that much emotional investment into the gym, no wonder he looked the way that he did. Okay, now some of us don't go to the gym and we're like, "Oh my god, I feel like having an but you have to assign some sort of like level of determination to it. You have to assign your emotions to it. And so what I did, at least in the very beginning when I studied Arnold, was that I would go to the gym and I'm like, okay, what is Arnold doing? So in my head, I'm like, okay, like I got to become obsessed like Arnold. I have to become obsessed like Arnold. And so I'm like doing my weights, I'm like lifting, I'm curling or something like that. And I'm like trying to like force myself into thinking like, let me like feel this. Let me feel what Arnold is trying to feel, not to the degree of what he felt, but I'm like, let me see what Arnold is talking about. So here I am like curling and I'm like, yeah, like this feels good. Like I'm almost like remember how I said that your brain learns slower than what your body can actually do? So my body is basically telling my brain like, "Watch. Look what I'm doing. Look how emotionally invested I am right now in this. Look how I'm look how I'm like making it seem like this feels amazing." You see that? Remember like I said, your brain's like a 2-year-old. It's got to watch for a little bit, but once it watches a little bit, then it can start repeating. It's like when the dad is driving in the car and he's on the phone and he like curses or something like that, and then like 15 minutes later, like the baby says the F word, like that they're like observing and they're learning. So your brain's like a 2-year-old and it's learning and observing. And so you've got to be the type to be like, look, like we are obsessed with the gym. Like this is what we like to do. Like this is the path that we want to go. And so brain goes, ooh, okay, this is what you're about. And then your brain kind of follows and becomes and adapts to it. Okay. So that's how you can assign emotional attachment to the things that you want out of life and take away the importance off of corn. Okay. Really great questions today, guys. This was fantastic. I am very, very impressed with the questions that you guys had today. Um, really, really great. So, like I said, I'm gonna put this on some of my channels. You guys can watch this over again. I'm still working on creating the vault for you guys to be able to rewatch these recordings. Um, but I think I'll start with this one. I'm still working on building like a vault for you guys to be able to like access and watch these recordings all over again. But good stuff. So you guys have homework. I gave you guys homework throughout this course, but I'm going to reiterate. If you wrote down all of it, good. That means you were paying attention. But the one thing that I do want you to do today is I want you to practice moving that spotlight from the left side of the room to the right side of the room towards the things that you want out of life. And the way that you're going to do that is I want you to start, and you could be working on your foundational redirect. You could be working on your next few ones after that. But whatever it is, I want you to start creating definitive, 100% clear path to getting to that point. I want you to look at it, believe in it, start doing it so that your 2-year-old brain can look at that and start being like, "Oh, okay. This is believable. We get it. Like, yeah, this is what we're doing. Okay, like let's follow." Okay? Give give the world time to catch up with your like fast efforts. Give the world time to catch up. You will start to see results. Okay? Just because I went to the gym on day 1 doesn't mean I lost 50 pounds. Okay? It took a while. It took a while. All right, guys. That's enough for tonight. Go get your wins. I'll talk to you later.